going to introduce you to another Stellar Labs employee, Shay, and she'll introduce our next speaker.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everybody. I am actually here today. I'm one of the account managers with the Stellar Labs Managed Services team. If you haven't, like the call out there, guys, if you haven't had an opportunity to talk to one of our team members, definitely find us today. We'd love to talk to you about making your PPC strategy easier, and it's something we get crazy excited about, so don't hesitate to find one of us. Right now, though, right before we break for lunch, we have another great session. I have the pleasure of introducing Nathan Hirsch today. Nathan is actually an entrepreneur and an expert in remote hiring and e-commerce. He is the co-founder and CEO of a business that you've probably heard of before, freeup.com. Super exciting marketplace that connects businesses with pre-vetted freelancers. So think e-commerce, digital marketing, much more, not just your average virtual assistant. It goes way beyond that. So he has sold over $30 million online and regularly appears on podcasts around the world. He's super excited to be here today, and I know we're super excited to have him. So without further ado, Nathan.
Awesome. Thank you. Is this working? Test. I think we're good. Cool. Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Thank you, Stellar Labs. I'm the CEO of freeup.com, a marketplace for pre-vetted virtual assistants, freelancers, and agencies, which we'll talk about later. But first, who here has hired someone before? And who here has made a bad hire before? Pretty much everyone, right? And the important thing to remember is that no one has a 100% hiring record. What I'm going to try to help you with today is how do we get closer and closer to that 100%? Because the difference between being at that 30 to 40 and the difference between 80 to 90 can be the difference between success and failure in your business. There's a lot of really great entrepreneurs out there with great ideas that just make bad hires over and over and over, and they don't have any success. And then there's average entrepreneurs out there that have a so-so idea, but they surround themselves with A players, and they keep those A players around, and because of that, their business thrives. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Does this look like you? It looks like most entrepreneurs. We wear a lot of different hats, whether it's marketing or finance or lead generation, whatever it is. The average entrepreneur is only good at 1 to 3 things, but we spend so much of our time doing things outside of our core competency. So I want to kind of open up your mind a little bit to getting other people to do the things that you're not good at. And one of the first things you have to do is understand what your strengths are. If you don't know what those are, you need to sit down and figure it out. If you have a business partner, which we'll talk a little bit about later, figure out what are you actually good at and how can I get other people that are good at what I'm bad at. Now, there's 2 ways to run your business. A lot of us have read the 4-hour work week. You guys read that? So the lifestyle business where you're at the beach or maybe you spend more time with your family and you have an outsourced team that's running everything and you can spend more time doing all the fun things in life that you want. The other way, which is more like my mentality, where every time I hire someone, and I hire a lot of people, and I get an extra 10 hours in my week, I'm investing then those 10 hours back into my business. I want to build an empire. I want to go all out, everything I got. And there's no right or wrong. But either way, you need reliable people that you can depend on. There's very few $1 million a year or $5 million a year entrepreneurs that are solo entrepreneurs. It really just doesn't exist if you think about it. You're going to have to hire people. It's part of your business. And I don't know why entrepreneurs do this, but if you're not good at marketing, you're not just going to say, oh, I'm not going to market anymore. That doesn't make any sense. But for some reason, we do that with hiring. We say, okay, I've made some bad hires. I'm not good at this. I'm just going to do everything myself. You're going to really struggle as an entrepreneur if you do that. So a little bit about me. I live with my amazing girlfriend, Quinn, my dog, Charlie. No, my girlfriend is not a virtual assistant in the Philippines. She is from Vietnam. I met her long before FreeUp. Common mistake. And I have an amazing team. They are 50 people. All my day-to-day operations, my Skype, my email, all handled by virtual assistants in the Philippines, people I got on my own platform. All my higher level stuff, the Facebook ads, the blogs, all handled by freelancers and agencies on my own platform that I'm just one of their many clients. So I really practice what I preach. I know you can build a team entirely remote. We have no office, we have no employees, everything is remote. But it wasn't always that way. I didn't always have my life outsourced. As you can tell, I used to have a lot more hair. And back in the day, I was a broke college kid, and I wanted extra money. And I really knew I didn't want to work for other people. So I kind of looked at college as a ticking clock. I had 4 years to create my own business, or I was going to go into the real world and never look back and be miserable for the rest of my life. So I started hustling and buying and reselling textbooks, created a little referral program, and before I knew it, I had lines out the door of people trying to buy my books, to the point where I got a cease and desist letter from my college telling me to knock it off. So I pivoted a little bit. I had heard of Amazon. This was back in 2008. No one knew what Amazon was. No one knew what it was going to become. And I started experimenting with really cool products that I was into, like outdoor sporting equipment, video games, computer games, typical college guy stuff. And I just failed over and over and over. And it wasn't until I branched out of my comfort zone and found the baby product industry that my business took off. So if you can imagine me as a 20-year-old single college guy selling millions of dollars of baby products on Amazon, that was me. And I'm making this money. I thought, okay, I should probably start paying taxes, right? So I met with an accountant. And the first question he asked me was, when are you going to hire your first person? And I kind of shrugged him off, like, why would I do that? That's money out of my pocket. They're going to steal my ideas. They're going to hurt my business. I'm going to have to train them. And he just laughed in my face. And he said, you're going to learn this lesson on your own. So sure enough, my first busy season comes around, the fourth quarter. And I don't know what busy season is with Amazon. There's no courses. There's no gurus. And I just get destroyed. I'm working 20 hours a day. My grades plummet. My social life is gone. And I somehow make it through to January. And I think to myself, man, I can never let that happen again. I need to start hiring people. So what do I know about hiring people? I post a job on Facebook. This guy in my business law class says, I don't know what you do, I need a job. I say, you're hired. Ends up being an amazing hire. He's my business partner, Connor. He's up there. He's my business partner for my Amazon business, for FreeUp. Worked hard right from the beginning, brought a lot to the table. So there I am, this punk 20-year-old kid thinking, man, this hiring thing is easy. You post a job on Facebook, someone shows up, you make more money, your life becomes easier. I got this down. And I just proceed to make bad hire after bad hire after bad hire. And everything I learned from all those bad hires is what I'm going to teach you today. Obviously, that led me to FreeUp down the line. It was tough to hire people in person being 2021, so I turned to the remote hiring world. But let's talk about the gig economy a little bit. So if you go back 20 years ago, you had to hire people in your town or the towns next to you. You were pretty limited, and you were competing with all those businesses for the same talent. Fast forward today, not only can you start a business with your laptop and some internet and a little bit of money, but you have access to people from all over the world. And you just get a ton of flexibility. You don't have to hire people full-time. You can hire people part-time, project-based, fixed prices. You can get a virtual assistant in the Philippines. You can hire a marketing agency, so it's one less thing you have to deal with. You have a ton of flexibility as an entrepreneur. And whether you like it or not, we're going in that direction. Over the next 10 years, they predict over 50% of the workforce is going to be remote. So if you're not taking advantage of it, your competitors are, one way or another. So I encourage you to open up your mind to hiring remote. It gives you a ton of flexibility as a business owner. Now, before we jump in to what we're going to be going over today, the question I get asked 30 times a week is all about risk, right? What are the risks of hiring people remote? So this is my stance on risk. There's always going to be a risk. There's nothing that me or anyone else can do to make that risk zero. Even if you hire your best friend to sit right next to you and you look over their shoulder every single day, there's always a chance they do something stupid or jeopardize your business in some way. Now, with that said, the average virtual assistant, the average freelancer, especially on our platform where it's hard to get in, cares a lot more about making more money, providing for their family, growing their freelance business, than they do about jeopardizing your business in any way. Now, are there things you can do to protect yourself, like user permissions on Amazon and LastPass and maybe an NDA, although are you really going to chase someone across the Philippines over a piece of paper? Probably not. But the number one way to really protect your business is to build relationships with the people that you hire. There's no substitute for that. I've had people I fired, I've had people that have quit on me. They didn't want to hurt me, I didn't want to hurt them, and we moved past it. So I encourage you, when you're hiring, if you're worried about risk, first of all, you have to get over that risk because hiring is the only way to scale, but focus on building relationships. That is the key to removing or lowering risk when you're hiring people. So what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about where businesses mess up. I'm going to go through a few of the common mistakes because I only have 30 minutes. If you want the rest of them, we have a blog article or an ebook called The 10 Common Most Mistakes of Outsourcing, but we'll go through some big ones. And then I'm going to go through my proven 5-step hiring process. You can take it, you can steal it, you can tweak it, you can make it your own, but this is what's worked for me. It's the same process that I put all my virtual assistants through, all my freelancers, to make sure that I'm getting the highest possible percentage of making a good hire. So where businesses mess up. Mistake number one, hiring cheap. Now, we've all heard the phrase, you get what you pay for, but I want to open up your mind to a little bit more than that. There is a time and a place to hire cheap. I have a lead generation process. I've been doing it for 5 years. I'm happy to send it to you. Shoot me an email, message me on Facebook, but I know this process works. I am not going to spend a lot of money for a virtual assistant to go through this process. It takes about 45 minutes for someone to get onboarded. And if they quit on me, which doesn't really happen, but if they did, it's not that big of a deal. I would get someone else. I would put them in that same process. So that's an area where I'm going to save money. I'm going to take the money I'm going to spend on hiring, and I'm going to invest it in different parts of my business. Now, my customer service reps that monitor my Skype and email that I've put months and months and months of training into, I'm not going to go cheap on that because turnover is expensive. Turnover kills businesses. If you look at the success and failure of a lot of startups, it's how big was their turnover. That can really be the difference. So if someone wants $20 an hour, don't lowball them at 15 because they might need a job right then and there. They might take that job at 15 or whatever it is, but they feel like they're worth 20. So the second they get a job at 20, they're out the door. And it's not the money you lose. You can always make more money. It's the time that you don't get back. The time is the asset. The other story that I'll share before going on to the next one is I have a friend who's an accountant, and he worked for this same accounting firm for 6 years, and he wanted a raise, and he asked for $5,000. Keep in mind, it's a huge firm, and they turned him down. So what did he do? He went out and got another job. And do you think it cost that accounting firm more than $5,000 to replace someone who had been in the company for 6 years? Yeah. So these are all things to keep in mind. Treat hiring as an investment. How much time have you actually invested in someone? What's going to happen if that person leaves the company? And how much is that turnover going to hurt your business? That's what you need to be focused on when you're hiring cheap. The mistake I see all the time, mistake number 2, is vague due dates and estimates. Whenever you work with a freelancer, and this is more on the freelancer and agency side of it, make sure you get everything in writing. Don't have a phone call with someone that turns into a he said, she said down the line. Set a due date, and not just a due time, because keep in mind, people are in different time zones. It's not due next Tuesday. It's due next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Black or white. If it's 2:01 and the project is not done, it's late. And I have a policy, I don't work with people that miss due dates. Now, here and there, whatever, it happens. But if someone's constantly missing due dates, I can't work with that person. Keep in mind when you're dealing with creative freelancers, whether it's graphic design or video, whatever it is, you have to allow time for revisions. You have to allow time for ideas. There's times where I'll go to someone and say, hey, I didn't think of this before, let's add that in. And that might extend the due date. So I always like to say the freelancer sets the due dates, not the client. So what I mean by that is I'll say, hey, can you get this done by next Wednesday? But I'll have them confirm that they can actually get it done by next Wednesday. And I set the mentality that I would much rather they tell me they need till Friday than to tell me Wednesday just to make me happy, but not be able to do it. Getting people that you work with in that mentality that they have to hit deadlines is a great expectation to set right from the beginning. Now, if any of you run an agency, put a gap between when it's due for your clients to when it's due with the freelancer. If it's due on your client on Friday, have it due from the freelancer on Wednesday. Allow time for revisions, emergencies. The last thing you want to be is left stranded with your client at the last minute. Mistake number 3 is lots of work without testing. I think I was just talking to Eric about that before. If you hire someone to do 50 listings, have them do 1. Give them feedback. Have them do another. Give them more feedback. Once you've built a relationship with someone and you know what their work ethic is like, then you can give them bigger and bigger projects. But the other thing you have to keep in mind is that freelancers work with a lot of different clients by definition. And what's good for one client might not be good for another. So make sure that you're breaking stuff down into smaller and smaller projects. Protect your investment. Don't give someone a 2-month project you've never worked with before and then check in with them in 2 months. You're going to be surprised with what you get. It might be what's great for someone else. Break stuff down, give feedback, and give them a chance to actually prove themselves before you commit to bigger and bigger projects. Mistake number 4, which is a personal mistake that I made. Back in the day, I had a genius idea to hire a manager of the day. I was stressed out of my mind, I wasn't sleeping well, and I thought, man, if I could just train one person to do every part of my business, my life will be easier. So I spend 6 months. I teach them customer service, listing products, repricing. There was no software back then, so we were manually repricing every listing. And at the end, it was awesome. I was sleeping better at night. My business just ran completely without me. And on the flip side, I did the exact same thing with a supplier. I had this one supplier who's doing about 85% of my business. I said, I don't need that other 15%. Let's just focus on this supplier and let's maximize them. So I have my business on autopilot. I am on the top of the world. I got this one supplier who's crushing it. I got this one person who's running every part of my business. And I thought, man, I need to take a vacation. I haven't taken a vacation in a while. So I go to Myrtle Beach, and I will never go back. On the first day of my vacation, I get 3 phone calls. The first call from my manager of the day telling me he was quitting on me. The second from my supplier telling me they were dropping me. And then the third from my accountant telling me someone had filed a fake tax return in my name, stolen $40,000 for the government, and I was going to have to deal with that when I came back. So I go from I'm on top of the world to let's start all over again from scratch. And it was devastating. But I learned a very valuable lesson about diversification. And when I came back, I started contacting lots of suppliers. And I eventually built my lead generation process and worked with over 200 suppliers. And when I came back to hiring and I got to the point where I could hire again, I departmentalized. 1 team for customer service, 1 person for listing, 1 person for repricing. And if that person quit, it wasn't as big of a deal. You just plug and play. And a lot of entrepreneurs fall into that trap because hiring is hard. You make a bunch of bad hires, so you find someone you like, and what do? You just load that person up with everything. It's incredibly risky. Short term, it might be okay. Long term, it can really hurt your business and it can set you back months. So like I said, I only have time to go through 4 of the mistakes. I have 10 big ones. You can get our ebook right on the FreeUp website, but I want to make sure we have time for my 5-step hiring process. So before we jump into that, for years, people would ask me, how do I decide what the best time to hire is? Or who that first hire should be? And I'm not a business coach. For me to talk to someone on the phone for 20 minutes and be like, you need to hire this person right now, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. People didn't really like that answer, so I kind of took a step back and I said, how do I decide when the right time to hire is? And what I do is I look at the numbers. I go and I say, how much money did I make last month and how aggressive do I want to be? If I want to be really aggressive, I'm going to invest 40 to 60% of my profits back into my business, into hiring people. If I want to be more conservative and we're all in a different place in our business and our life, have different bills and obligations, responsibilities, maybe it's 10 to 30%. But figure out what that number is, and you can adjust it month over month. If you want to go up 10% or down 10%, that's fine too. But the last thing you want to do is invest time into hiring someone only to realize that you can't afford it or you're investing more than you want to. So let's say that you decide you want to invest 25% of your profits into hiring someone. The next question in step one becomes, what are you going to hire for? So what I like to say is create two lists. The first list, get away from your business. Turn off your phone. I don't have my phone on me. I'm freaking out a little bit. And sit by a lake and say, what do I do every day? How are those tasks broken down? Create a list of everything you do on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And put a number value next to those things. Is it a $5 an hour task? Is it a $20 an hour task? And understand what your value is. If you're starting a new business, your hourly rate might not be that high. If you're 3 years in, it might be $1,000 an hour. But figure out what those tasks are and prioritize them from easiest to hardest. And if you've never outsourced before, if you've never hired a VA before, the top of the list is a great place to start. You'll learn a lot of lessons. You'll take some small tasks off your plate. And it's all about how do you get more hours back. What would you do with an extra 5 hours, 10 hours in a week? So that's list one. List two, and one of the best business activities my partner and I did back in the day, is we sat down on our porch, and for an hour and a half we said, you're bad at this. And we just pointed the other person. And we wrote it all down. And it hurt a little bit, hit us in our gut. But at the end, we had this list of things we weren't good at, and we realized we complemented each other very well. We were good business partners, that's great. But we also had all these things that neither of us were good at, but we were doing them every single week. So for that list, you're going to hire specialists and experts or agencies to take those things that you're not good at, take those weaknesses, and turn them into strengths. So that's the two list. Everything you do that you have a process for, everything that you're not good at. Step two is you're going to define what that perfect hire looks like. Is it an employee that sits in your office? Is it a virtual assistant in the Philippines? Is it a US freelancer? Is it part-time? Is it full-time? Is it project-based? What types of skills, what types of background do they have to have? What's the price point that you can actually afford? And then my favorite, what kind of people do you actually work well with? I tend to talk fast. I tend to be pretty direct. I pretty much remove emotions from business in every way. If someone is warm and fuzzy and they work slow and they can't handle me being direct, they're probably not the best fit to work with me, even if they check every other box. So understand what you're looking for and the type of people that you work well with is really important for step two. If you don't know what you're looking for, it's going to be really tough to find it. Step three is the interview. Yes, figure out what platform, use FreeUp, use whatever platform you want, but when you get someone, you got to figure out how to interview them. Now, a while ago, I used to hire people just for skill. They would have a great resume, they'd have years of experience, and then 3 months later, it would blow up in my face, and I was there wondering why. How could this person that was so talented be such a bad hire? And I realized that skill was just one part of the equation. They need to have the attitude and the communication as well. For skill, and this is the same vetting we put people through on the FreeUp platform, they have to have, it doesn't matter if they're a 10 out of 10, a 5 out of 10, a 3 out of 10 when it comes to skill. What matters is that they're honest about what they can and cannot do, and they're priced accordingly. For attitude, we want people who are passionate about what they do. Who here hates bookkeeping? Me too. If I hire a bookkeeper, they need to love bookkeeping as much as I love being an entrepreneur. Those are the type of people that I want to work with. They can't get aggressive the second that something doesn't go their way. They have to be able to take feedback without taking it personally. Attitude is important. And last is communication, because it doesn't matter what their attitude is, what their skill is. If they can't communicate with you at a high level, nothing else matters. And we have 15 pages of communication best practices that they have to memorize and get tested on before they get onto our platform. So let's say you use us and we vetted them, and you're welcome to vet them yourself. Focus on, are they the best fit for me? Because again, even the best virtual assistants, the best freelancer in the world are not the best fit for every single client in the world. Step four, and the part that everyone messes up, is setting expectations. You make a hire, you get them rolling, and you don't take a second to get right on the same page right from the beginning. We have a free client expectations doc. You can fill it out, you can hand it to them, you can ask them if they have any questions. I'll even scare them a little bit, and scare probably isn't the right word, but I would much rather that they back out right from the beginning than for them to work with me for 3 months and then tell me, oh, I can't live up to what you want. So spend that extra time to set those expectations, clear and direct, black and white, in writing. It's going to save you hours and hours and hours of time down the line. And step 5 is my personal favorite, the feedback loop. So back in the day when I did Office, which was one of the worst business decisions I ever made, I had 50% turnover. I had the same person for the same position, 3 different people quit on me. And so I got frustrated, I was pissed off, and I sat down with the last person that had quit, and I said, hey, can you do an exit interview with me? Now, there's only one type of exit interview, and that's an incredibly uncomfortable one. You're sitting across the table from someone, you're pissed off at them, they're pissed off at you, and I said, tell me why you quit, tell me what's wrong. And he just hit me to the core. He told me everything that was wrong with my hiring process, my culture, my management style, my leadership, the people in the company, my business model, and I should have written that guy a check right there. Because that information helped me turn my turnover to less than 5% now and really turn my whole business around. And at the end of that meeting, and this always sticks with me to this day, he said, you know what, Nate, in the 3-4 months, whatever it was that I worked with you, this was the only time you ever asked me for my feedback. Pretty powerful, right? So the feedback loop is incredibly important. You want to give them feedback on whether they're meeting your expectations from step 4, but it has to go the other way too. You have to create a culture and an environment that whether they're a virtual assistant in the Philippines or they're a graphic designer you're using for one project, that they can give feedback on you, on your communication, on your management, on your business. Because as you get bigger and bigger, you get farther and farther removed from what's working and not working in the middle of your business. That feedback is important. So that's my presentation today. I know I went a little fast, tried to keep it under 30 minutes. 5-step hiring process, the mistakes. Here are some of the stuff you can get on the FreeUp platform. We have over 100 skill sets, virtual assistants, freelancers, agencies from all over the world, from followers to doers to high-level experts. You guys finished taking pictures there. You can check out my podcast called The Outsourcing and Scaling Show. If you go to freeup.com/sellerlabs, you get a free $50 credit to try us out. If you're already a client using FreeUp, you get 5% off your next hire. Just mention Resonate. You can connect with me. I'm probably one of the easiest people to contact on social media, email, whatever it is. And yeah, how'd I do on time?
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks, Nathan.
Thanks.